you so much for joining us at the Most Innovative Companies Summit. I'm Julianne Pepitone, your moderator for this session. And I want to note something interesting. On this year's Most Innovative Companies list, you will find all sorts of business icons from Waymo and YouTube to NVIDIA and EA Sports. But there is only one educational institution that made Fast Company's list this year, and that is Texas A&M University. It is a 150-year-old institution with a lot of tradition, a ton of legacy, but also a ton of innovation. So in this session, in partnership with Texas A&M, we're going to find out, how do you all maintain tradition? How are they driving innovation? And what the heck is going on these days with 18 to 22-year-olds that we all really need to know, we old-timers? So let's get into it. Tim, Mark, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So Mark, let's start with you. Tell me a little bit about that balance between tradition and innovation at Texas A&M.
Thank you, Julie. It's great to be here. Howdy, everybody. One of the great things about being at an institution that's been around for a prolonged period of time is it creates almost a spiritual pillar for the organization. And at Texas A&M, which has been around about 150 years, that pillar is really pride, because we may not be the oldest institution in the country, but I guarantee you we are the proudest. And there's this center pole of pride wrapped with tradition and legacy and heritage. And all of it creates something that we can kind of lean back against when things get difficult, or as we try and take a deep breath to figure out what the future looks like. The great part about that is that it's something you can always count on. Innovation is much different than that. But I'll tell you this, I'm not 150 years old, but I'm sneaking up on half of that. And I have found that I'm not getting more innovative with age. And most people don't. We also don't get more nimble with age, certainly. And so the trick really is figuring out, how do you generate the kind of interest and thought that gets people thinking differently than the way I think or the way the institution thinks. And hopefully we have 150 years of learning, of experience, of impact that teaches us that the only way to get more innovative is to listen to more people of all ages, of all experience levels. And so that's what we try and do at Texas A&M. Our students are brilliant. Our staff's incredible. Our faculty are more brilliant. And then we have people like Tim leading the charge, and he is an innovator.
Great. Well, with that introduction, Tim, as the Dean of the College of Performance, Visualization, and Fine Arts, tell us a little bit about that program. Seems like, innovation is inherent to that. What are you all doing that aligns with the values that Mark spoke about? And how do you think about kind of that balance or that tension between legacy and innovation?
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty easy in an academic environment, as someone who came from industry into the academy, to get refreshed every year. These students arrive on campus and they're all over the place, and they are innovators. They really are thinking about the world in different ways. So it feels like every year we're doing a refresh. Every year we're thinking about things differently because they force us to. And the legacy that Mark is talking about is as a land-grant institution. So we plug into what can we do for our state. And that means talking to our communities of practice, talking to our industries. With them, we're looking at the horizon. We're looking at where are they going to be problem solving in 3 to 5 years. And so we're doing this nice dance between these incoming students with all this energy and ideas, and then where do we want to get them in 3 to 5 years? And that's continually working and continually thinking about the things that we do for our students, the things that we do for our state.
You both mentioned the young people who you interact with every day. And you're training the next generation of leaders, with how quickly everything is moving, a huge topic at Summit today. They're going to be solving problems that we have not only not faced yet, we probably cannot even imagine them yet. So, give us a little bit of the scoop on this. Tell us a little bit more. What are you seeing in this new generation of future workers that makes them distinct? What should companies, the leaders joining us, what should they be paying attention to? And what might surprise them about this new generation? Mark?
Yes, ma'am. At our university, there are generations from me to Gen Z. I don't know how many that is, 5, 6, 7. There's a lot of us. And every new generation was going to be the end of the world as we knew it, remember? And what's really happened, including with this new generation, is that they bring incredible new skills with them and an unbelievable ability to connect and network. I mean, just think about the phrase long lost friend. That's my generation's phrase. It is not even a thing anymore.
Actually, can't even imagine that. How would you lose touch with a friend?
Yeah, they're brilliant at new and different things, and they are taking generations of IT immigrants like me and dragging us into the future. They're phenomenal. One of the things, their talent is incredible. That's one thing every company leader should understand. But the other thing you need to understand about them is once they get into an institution, in our case, Texas A&M University, they embrace the values that we embrace. If we can show them logically why these values are good for them and for their future, and for us, it's corny things. It's pride and patriotism and faith and family and loyalty and respect and honor, things that really matter to the individual. They see the benefit of that after they're in our culture for a while. They embrace it, and then they take those with them along with all that new talent that's going to change the world. They're remarkable.
I know we hear a lot about how the younger generation is voting with their wallets, with values. I imagine, are they choosing Texas A&M because of those values? And again, for the leaders who are joining us, can we expect that when it's time for them to apply for jobs, they'll be looking for potential employers who align with their personal values?
Yeah, I find it interesting that schools that consider themselves values-based universities and colleges, enrollment's not dropping. It's going up. We have 115,000 applicants for the fall semester, for example. We have 80,000 students on our campus this past semester. And so it's big, it's dynamic, it's growing, and it's changing because of all the talent and the new inquisitive minds that they're bringing with them.
Tim, let's bring you in. Again, with being the dean of the school that you lead, you're helping students learn in ways that kind of inherently blend art, technology, problem solving. So what are you seeing? What is different about these students, in particular, in the way that they think and create?
Yeah, well, I have a reputation, and I guess deserved, for telling our students that grades don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a risky thing to do because
some of them love that.
grades do matter, scholarships, things like that, staying eligible, that matters. But really, it's about what you produce. And we don't always assess that very well, and we just have to admit it. We don't assess that very well. But the things that matter that the students are really digging into are how they collaborate with others, how they iterate through answers and solutions. They come to us often from a system where there is a right answer. Too often we're measuring the wrong things in K through 12. Or we're telling students there is a right answer in K through 12, and our job is to say, actually, there are different versions of right answers, and how many of those versions can you iterate through in a given time period to come up with the best possible, given the resources that you have. So those things, I think, are important for our students. And then we really push them, at least in the field that I'm in, to say, well, I'll give you a little story. I came across one of the students I know by the name of Kate, and she looked really stressed. She was in between kind of buildings where you can sit and have a little study time. I said, "What's going on, Kate?" And she said, "Well, I'm really struggling with the engineering math course that I'm taking." I said, "Oh, there's right across there at the College of Engineering, there's thousands of other students struggling the same way. You've got company." And she said, "Yes, but those engineering students, that's their hardest course right now. I'm doing the engineering math course with my design studio." I said, "Oh, yeah, right. Good luck with that, Kate. I'm glad you're doing that."
That's a great day.
It really is this combination. We're not expecting Kate to be brilliant in her engineering math course. We're expecting her to be literate, right? To understand when a problem comes to her from that realm, she can say, "Okay, I know how to get started on this." At the same time, when something comes to her that has to do with aesthetics, she understands, "Okay, I know how to get started on that." And then she combines those two things. So that's what we're doing in the field where I'm at, in a number of the fields that we have at Texas A&M, this combination of different frameworks for thinking, bringing them together.
Yeah. Can you give us an example of either, a program that you're running or maybe a project that one of your classes did that kind of is the quintessential example of that combination?
Yeah. So we're moving into this world, right, where the digital and the virtual and the physical are combining. And at Texas A&M, we have what we call the Virtual Production Institute, which is a large environment where the virtual can be on these screens behind us and it's running real time. It's running real time imagery, it's running real time simulation. And then we have the physical, which is us immersed in that. And so we bring the students into this and we say, okay, what can you come up with, whether it's creative storytelling, whether it's a simulation for a problem you want to solve, whether it's simulation and training, maybe it has to do with advanced manufacturing. What can you do where you're using this technology that's real time, it's immersive, and it's hybrid to solve a problem or create an experience? And they're really digging into that. And our job is to make sure that they're supported with the right technical staff, they're supported with the right equipment, and they understand how to keep iterating and being creative.
You know, so we've talked about the projects and kind of the psyche of this kind of young and vibrant community you have at Texas A&M, obviously a huge driver. But looking at the university overall as an institution, I'm curious if we could talk kind of more practically, more specifically about what you're doing to spark innovation, you know, both technologies and non-tech methods. You know, what do you think has been most impactful in creating and continuing that culture of innovation? What?
I think the biggest thing is that brilliant minds create sparks, which is what this is all about. It's about you talking to each other and sharing ideas and listening to some of the brilliant minds who've been on this stage today, current company certainly excluded. But the things they do, the way they do it, the ideas they have generate sparks. Sparks start the fire. Fire burns down anything that's not innovative over time. At a university, it's important that we show students that that's possible. I'll give you a couple of examples at A&M. Our engineering building is called the Zachary Building, and there's an incredible amount of artwork in the Zachary Building. That artwork, much of it is visually oriented, different art. So there's flowing light dots on walls. And if you're a fine arts student from Tim's College of Performance Visualization and Fine Arts and you walk in, you think that's beautiful. If you're an engineering student, you know that it's data. It's data tracking entry into the building, the flow of people through the building, who's where in the building. If you're the fire department or the police department responding in a crisis, it tells you where the people are. It tells you whether the entrances have been secured. It's functional visualization, and it's beautiful. Our students see that, and it creates sparks. We have on the technology side a new range at one of our campuses near the main campus that actually has a ballistic aero optics and materials engineering range. It's a kilometer-long tunnel where you can shoot things up to Mach 10, which is pretty fast. The entire experiment to test new materials, to test ballistic resistance, to test materials that could go on future platforms that fly in air or space, the entire experiment will take a third of a second at Mach 10.
Wow.
How do you explain what goes on inside that tunnel? And the answer is Tim's answer. You can visualize it. You can change sensor technology to show it in incredibly slow motion. You can actually tell the story of what's happening there to people like me who don't understand the science. And when you show students that all this is possible, they start thinking of crazy things, like one of our students working on a nanosensor to detect ovarian cancer in stage 1, which will change the world for hundreds of thousands of women a year, because we can't detect it until stage 4 right now, so it's 80% fatal. And those kind of things can happen at major universities that have the kind of faculty who can guide that thought, be the spark for those students. We've spent a major amount of time, energy, and effort over the last 10 years working with our chancellor and our governor to create research funds that allow us to bring National Academy members in medicine, science, engineering, et cetera, to our faculty. We've gone from 11 to 57 of them, including Nobel laureates and many others. The idea is just generate more sparks.
Tim, how about you from your corner of the world? You know, where are those sparks? What's been most impactful to spark innovation?
Yeah, I think the best thing that we're doing right now is to be careful about what we measure. I'll go back to something I mentioned about what the students are up to, but a big push in higher ed right now is more quantifiable measurables about what you're delivering. And really that is a slippery slope, because when you measure, then you tend to assign resources to the outcomes of those measures. And as soon as you assign those resources, then you create divisions. And that is a real problem for creativity and
Sure.
innovation. And so we're being really careful about what we measure and to say, let's make sure that we're talking about product. Let's make sure we're talking about what's the outcome, what's the experience. And so we bring together faculty from across the range of disciplines at a comprehensive university: choreographers, designers, performers, computer scientists, humanists. And we're saying, okay, let's look at this problem together. Let's look at what a live performance venue would be like if it were completely immersed in the kinds of technologies we have available, so that each of your experiences is personalized to you and the performer is able to reach you in a way that is different, And so we're not there yet, but we have the right collection of people and the right infrastructure to explore that and to be the place. Our goal is to be the place when you want to explore that, you come to Texas A&M, because we've got the collection of people without boundaries between them to look at it together.
Sure. That's teasing up nicely for our next question. I'm curious, with everything changing so quickly in technology, work culture, campus culture, what are you all most excited about? What are you keeping your eyes on in the next couple of years for the upcoming generation? Mark?
I'm excited about what Tim's college is doing with visualization. It's fascinating how this can be applied to many things. And on our campus, it's already started to generate thought in other areas, including medical research, energy research, all kinds of things. We're buying small modular nuclear reactors to do research on. We're building a new hypersonic wind tunnel facility. How you show the results from tests in those areas is going to require better visualization, because you're trying to tell a story not just to other scientists, but to decision makers and investors. And those stories are hard to tell in a simple, understandable way. I'm also excited about the students we have coming in who want to be involved in this kind of work. They want to think of new and different ways of solving problems. They want the tool set to do that. They want people teaching them who are smart enough to give them that tool set. There's a demand for more. I love that about universities. I love the dynamism. I love the desire to be great. They're all getting ready to go chase their dreams, and I know Tim and I both love being part of that.
Tim, same question for you.
Yeah, I'm excited about what those kids who are in 4th grade to 7th grade, so those 12 to 13, 14-year-olds, maybe down to 10, what they're doing right now. They're really immersed in these forms of communication and collaboration that are a bit alien to most of us, right? And they're really deep into it, to the point that some parents say, hey, can you get off those devices for a few minutes? But they're going to be our students in a few years. And the technology's direction is on a collision point with that generation in 5 to 10 years. I'm excited about trying to engineer the learning environment to meet the expectations and the needs of those kids, because then they will take that into the work environment. They're going to be fantastic.
Absolutely. So given that, you, as you say, kind of working on advancing a new type of learning, and it's one that's focused on innovation, interdisciplinary learning, and human-centered leadership. And, I think that those are values that everyone here, probably hopes to espouse. So for the folks who are joining us today, what is one action they can take to advance learning or maybe rethink innovation in their own organizations? Mark?
Well, I think it starts with, in my case, it starts with me acknowledging that I need to advance my own learning. I need to try and become more innovative, or at least listen to more innovative thought. I need to work on my own character, make it better, and help make the institutional character better. Everybody who's at Texas A&M is better than me at something. Most of them are better than me at a whole bunch of things. And some of them, including many students, are better than me at everything. And I think understanding that makes me a better listener. I think really truly believing that makes me more willing to think of new and different approaches that aren't mine. And so I think that's what you need to do at every level of every organization. Your people are remarkable. Let them be.
Yeah, Tim.
Well, Mark is pushing an initiative at Texas A&M that I think is really important, and it is to recognize service and put it high on the pedestal of things that we expect from our students. So we really want our students to understand that academics are important, but we also want them to understand that service is a takeaway from the university experience. It is as important, because we want them to go out and be leaders not only in their industries, but also leaders in their civic environment. And how do we teach them? How do we make sure they understand how to engage in being good partners with the rest of their fellow citizens? And that's independent of their political persuasion. That is simply about how we are all in this together. And that's a key part of the education. That's a key thing that you're moving forward with at Texas A&M, and that making that a part of our education, I think, is a responsibility we have to the students.
Yeah, how about the responsibility that the folks here have as leaders? You know, something I've been asking each of my panels today is if you could have everyone here take one action, you know, in this case about leadership, innovation, advancing learning, thinking about the next generation, about anything that we talked about today, what's one action you would like them to take just to kind of embrace that and move things forward at their own companies? Tim?
I would love for companies to be more engaged with higher ed. So there's an action. We have industry advisory boards, and these are real opportunities for whatever institution you're closely aligned with to dig into and engage with. You may feel like if you've done that before that you come in and you spend a day or two and you go away and nothing happens. But trust me, from being someone who's organized these, that feedback is so important. We do live in isolation sometimes, importantly, working on the things that are long-term. But we need that constant input from industry and from communities of practice to let us know what you're thinking about, where you're going, what your expectations are for students. Not just your expectations for their first day on the job, which may occur in a few weeks, but your expectations for 3 years from now. What do you want them to be? Get in those conversations and spend the time with the universities. I think they will appreciate it. We would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mark, will you be the last word?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I also think that something that I'm sure all of you already do this. My dad gave me this advice when I was pretty young, and he said, one of the things you can do to change your world, however big or small that is notice somebody who's doing something good in it, in the areas you think are important, and do it every day. And so just a quiet acknowledgement to someone that, hey, I really like the way you responded to that issue. You really helped us, react the way we should react as a company. I really like the different approach you took to solving that problem. I love the fact that you raised a controversial idea, even if we didn't decide to go that way. Thanks for bringing it up. Something small, it doesn't have to be big or dramatic, but I guarantee you when you do that with people in your organization, your world starts to change. And pretty soon they're doing it to the people in their world. And if you can get to the point where your whole company is doing that, you beat everybody.
Well, that is our time for this session. Tim and Mark, thank you. I want to thank all of you for joining us for this session. If you would like to rewatch any portion of this conversation, it will be made available on demand soon on fastcompany.com. And on behalf of Fast Company and Texas A&M University, I'm Julianne Pepitone. Tim, Mark, thank you. Hope you all enjoy the rest of the summit.